Yeah, so I think these, as part, like obviously industry has discovered and all these problems, and every company in a way, or every industry is trying to mitigate these problems and finding out the solutions of these problems actually, right? And one of the uh, largest problem statements, obviously the problem statement start from the HR tools which, or HR systems which are used by the companies, like the ERPs, right, and the CRM systems, because the way these system has utilized in the past, and they were they were the system of the static records actually, right? Eitherly they developed internally, or they have utilized external ERPs tool actually, by keeping the certain things in the mind. These were the tools which were not designed by keeping the mind they will be enabling the certain data insight, they will be providing the insights, and they will be solving these challenges which industry has faced today. Now, so and which leads to the and which leads to the multiple other issues, and because of that employee engagement has come into the picture. But one of the things which companies has to focus on, how they can enable the better, how can they put the better HR systems into the pictures, or how can they utilize the HR systems. For example, I'm just going to quickly talk about one of the things which every company, large IT services based companies which we have seen, is focused on two specific kind of things, and where they spend good amount of times and money on that piece, and then the effort, basically the career architectures and the competency normalization and the competency structures which they do have, right? Okay. Because it becomes the source of the information for a company to map their jobs, and company to map their employees to those skills, competencies, and the roles actually, right? And by the time they are done with, like obviously the companies does have the internal experts, but they mainly work with the third party experts. And because of the static behavior, what happens the time that experts are done with the changes, the environment has changed actually, right? So it becomes not relevant when it goes to the real users and goes to the real environment. It becomes no use of for the organization behavior, culture, and the people's or employees visibility actually, right? And becomes a challenge. Now, how do they, I think that's where they need to start utilizing the tools and the products, and they have to utilize the technology basically to provide the dynamic environment and the behavior which can serve the need of the time, and also look at the long term and the small term and medium term goals as well of the companies, to enhance them. Okay, they're ready for the future as well, and they're ready for the current environment as well, and it is ready to serve to the people in the according to their need actually, right? And so that's where companies has to focus on these kind of products and tools or the technologies actually. Now, once this this problem is solved, then I think what does it look like to the second one of the largest problem statement which happens in the industry is basically the internal job boards actually, right? Because in the end, before attrition happens, people wants to look out the better jobs inside the company, because that's more easier than anything. But today, if you look at the internal job boards, some companies doesn't have the internal job boards, which doesn't provide that visibility and transparency, which can enable the growth, which can give a some kind of objective for people to look at the growth inside the company actually, right? And that's where today's the internal job boards are basically can't compete with the technology which is available outside, because they are they don't have the great user experience, they don't have the great personalized jobs recommendation based on the skills which people do have, or aspiration which they do have actually, right? And that's where which leads to the, obviously there are certain behavior and the policies the way they have designed, which leads to the environment of being not having the right kind of visibilities actually, like employees doesn't have the visibility on the jobs based on the policies which companies has designed because of certain circumstances. And it's these create the unpleasant experience for the employees, and they don't see any futuristic growth, and which leads to the better finding out alignment in some other companies, in some other environment and the culture, they leave the companies, and that's what leads to the attrition. So I think companies has to focus on internal job boards, or some kind of tools and the technology which can provide the great user experienced personalized jobs and transparency about the policies and what are, how does the company look at them from the jobs perspective, and how they can target to the next goal as part of their career growth.